I was nursing a cold brew on my deck, the kind that's more ice than coffee, when I noticed the first neon umbrella popping up on the sand like some garish flower. At first, I figured it was just a family who'd strayed too far down the coast and stumbled onto my quiet stretch of shoreline. No big deal, I'm not the type to gatekeep a beach. But then came the folding tables, the oversized coolers, and the real kicker, a rented sound system being hauled off a truck plastered with neighborhood association stickers. By the time I set my mug down, 2 SUVs were parked in the dirt path near my driveway, unloading chairs, crates of wine, and enough beach gear to outfit a small army. Directing it all, like a conductor of chaos, was Vanessa, the Vanessa blonde ponytail swinging, clipboard in hand, dressed in a crisp linen dress like she was about to host a gala. My gut twisted. This wasn't a picnic. This was a takeover. The land was mine, had been for over a decade. My grandfather left me this sliver of rocky coastline along with the weathered cabin when I moved to Crescent Bay, Oregon, in 2013. It was private, tucked away from the public access points, a hidden gem most folks didn't even know existed. That was the whole point. I used it for morning jogs, late-night bonfires, or just staring at the Pacific when the world got too loud. I'd had my run-ins with Vanessa and her neighborhood association before petty disputes over fence heights or mailbox colors, but this was next-level audacity. Their jurisdiction ended 3 blocks inland, yet here they were, planting flags, rolling out a schedule board, and unless my eyes were lying, setting up a portable bar right on my shore. I strolled down, hands stuffed in my pockets, keeping my tone light. "Morning, Vanessa. Nice day to set up shop on someone else's property, huh?" She spun around, already irritated, like I'd interrupted a board meeting. "Oh, come on, Ethan," she said, flashing a smile that was all teeth. "This beach just sits here. We're hosting the community's summer bash. It's for everyone's benefit. You'll see." I pointed out, as calmly as I could, that this was private land. She brushed me off like I'd mentioned a stray seagull. "Don't make this complicated. You're not even in the association, so you're not footing the bill. Relax." Arguing with Vanessa was like yelling at the tide, pointless. She had a way of steamrolling you with her unshakable confidence. She leaned in, voice dropping to a patronizing whisper. "It's for the neighborhood, Ethan. We've had complaints about your empty beach. This is us putting it to good use." She didn't name names. She didn't have to. Her complaints were just excuses for whatever she'd already decided to do. By noon, the invasion was in full swing. Neighbors, strangers, even some out-of-towners Vanessa must have invited to boost her ego showed up. They hammered volleyball nets into my sand, unpacked catered trays, and parked a portable restroom right by my driftwood pile. Every time I tried to step in, Vanessa treated me like a confused tourist, patting my arm and saying, "Just enjoy the party." The music blared, kids tore through the dunes, and someone fired up a grill so close to my fence I could smell the lighter fluid. I retreated to my deck and watched, jaw tight. I could have called the sheriff, but I knew how that'd play out a he-said-you-said mess, where Vanessa would spin herself as the victim. If I wanted her gone, I needed something sharper. Something she couldn't charm her way out of. My mind drifted to the tank in my shed, a hefty glass aquarium I'd kept for years as part of my marine biology hobby. Inside were about 400 Pacific ghost crabs I'd collected for a coastal study, due for release soon. Harmless but spooky in swarms, they were fast, skittish, and perfect for chaos. The idea hit me like a wave's low at first, then all at once. If Vanessa wanted a lively beach, I'd give her one. I didn't act right away. The anticipation was half the fun. The party grew louder as the tide receded, giving Vanessa's empire more room to spread. She took a makeshift stage, preaching about community spirit and shared spaces, while the crowd clapped like she was running for mayor. No one mentioned the land wasn't hers. By late afternoon, the air was thick with heat, sweat, and smugness. I slipped into the shed, checked the crabs, hundreds of them scuttling, eyes twitching, and loaded the tank into a wheelbarrow under a tarp. I rolled it to the far end of the beach, out of sight, and waited. Timing was everything. Too early, and the crabs would scatter before reaching the crowd. Too late, and the tide might sweep them away. As the sun dipped, Vanessa announced a dance-off near the party's heart. Everyone clustered closer. That was my moment. I tipped the tank, and the crabs spilled out like a pale, living flood, fanning across the sand. I trailed behind, guiding their path toward the thickest knots of guests. The first scream came from a kid on a towel, jumping as crabs skittered over his legs. Then it spread shouts, spilled drinks, people swatting at their feet as crabs darted over coolers and under chairs. Vanessa clapped her hands, yelling for calm. But when a crab climbed her chair and onto her lap, her shriek sliced through the music. The crowd scattered, some toward the water, others to their cars, as crabs poured from the dunes like the beach itself was rebelling. From my deck, coffee in hand, I watched the chaos unfold against the sunset's glow. The bar was abandoned, the volleyball net sagged, and Vanessa stood, ponytail askew, barking into a walkie-talkie no one answered. In 20 minutes, my beach was empty again, save for a few stubborn crabs patrolling the sand. I knew this wasn't over. Vanessa didn't lose gracefully. But for now, the tide was mine. The next morning, the beach was a wreck flip-flops, toppled chairs, a half-buried cooler leaking shrimp salad. A single sandal glittered in the dune grass like a relic of a fallen regime. It should have felt like a win, but Vanessa wasn't done. By 9 a.m., she was at my gate, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding her glare. What you did was reckless, Ethan. Dangerous. People were hurt. I raised an eyebrow. Hurt? By ghost crabs? Maybe a pinched toe from grabbing wildlife. Her jaw clenched. A child was bitten, and the association considers this a hostile act. We're discussing consequences. I reminded her I wasn't part of her association. She smirked. We have other ways. By noon, a code enforcement officer was at my door, citing anonymous complaints about my deck, my paint, my beach path. Nitpicky nonsense, clearly Vanessa's doing. Over the next week, strangers showed up, claiming my beach was public. Flyers advertised events on my land, complete with maps. Vanessa was rewriting reality, normalizing her claim. I could have gone legal, but lawsuits against her were like tossing cash into the surf. I needed something quieter, something she couldn't pin on me. The crack in her armor came from Mark, a new neighbor who'd been at the crab fiasco and felt bad about it. Over coffee, he let slip that Vanessa had bragged to donors about reclaiming coastal assets, like my beach for the association's gain. Some members were uneasy but too scared to challenge her. That was my opening. I invited those hesitant neighbors for low-key bonfires on my beach. No agenda, just beers and respect for the land. Word spread, and Vanessa hated it, accusing me of dividing the community. That told me I was getting under her skin. Then came her next move, a massive public welcome event planned for my beach, announced with a sign at my driveway. No permission, no heads up. Instead of confronting her, I called the local wildlife trust, the Coastal Preservation League, and the state's environmental department, reporting a planned gathering in a sensitive dune ecosystem home to protected plovers. I didn't lie, the birds had nested there before. Saturday arrived, and Vanessa's crew descended with tents, catering, and a margarita cart. I sat on my deck, waiting. At noon, a state truck pulled up. 2 officers questioned Vanessa, who pointed at my cabin like I'd ratted her out. I had, indirectly. They roped off half the beach for review, warning of fines for disturbing nests. Guests left early, grumbling. That night, Vanessa emailed me one line. You'll regret this. I smiled. She thought she was still in charge. The real blow was her upcoming gala, the association's big fundraiser where Vanessa played queen. Mark mentioned she'd planned a coastal elegance theme with a surprise, a massive saltwater aquarium showcasing local marine life. Perfect. I volunteered unofficially, helping vendors at the community center, blending in. I found the tank hidden under a tarp clear-sided, filled with fish and crabs, meant to dazzle guests. I visited the rental company, asking about tank maintenance. The tech warned that heat could stress the fish, especially in a poorly cooled room like the center's. The thermostat was locked, but its cheap case was easy to nudge open. At the gala, I arrived early, dressed sharp but understated. Vanessa, dripping in pearls, gave me a tight smile. Didn't expect you, Ethan. I shrugged. Mark said it'd be a shame to miss. The room hummed with jazz, champagne, and her self-congratulation. Halfway through, I slipped to the thermostat, bumped it up a few degrees, and returned to the crowd. Soon, the tank's fish darted frantically, a crab climbed the glass, and the water clouded. A kid shouted about a sleeping fish. Vanessa laughed it off, but when water splashed over the rim, guests backed away. The tech rushed in, muttering about heat stress. The tank was wheeled out, dripping, as guests whispered about cruelty. The night collapsed. I toasted Vanessa with my glass and left. The fallout was brutal. Videos of the tank disaster went viral in the neighborhood chat. A florist leaked Vanessa's unpaid bills. I dug into association records, finding budgets for coastal access and plans to claim my land through continuous use. Mark confirmed she'd pitched this to donors, framing my beach as a community asset. My lawyer, Clara, suggested a conservation easement to protect my land legally. I met with the trust, walked the dunes, and signed the papers. The beach became protected habitat, untouchable without permission. When Vanessa planned another event, state wardens shut it down, citing a forged permit. Her empire cracked. At the next association meeting, I presented the easement, the forged permit, and her budgets. The room turned on her. Ruth, the secretary, confirmed the documents. The board voted her out, 4-2. Vanessa stormed out, papers flying. The beach was mine again, the sand marked only by plover tracks. I tossed a cheap whistle from her party into the trash and sat on my deck, beer in hand, watching the moon on the water. It wasn't just victory, it was proof that patience outlasts arrogance. What do you think? Did I go too far with the crabs, or was Vanessa's overreach asking for it? Should I have gone legal from the start, or was the slow burn worth it? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you enjoyed the saga, and subscribe for more stories where the underdog flips the script.